Hey, Satenico here once again for Godlovescomics, and I have another comics haul. Not really an unboxing because I just opened it already yesterday when I made a first video that I did not like, and so I'm remaking another video for this because the visual quality wasn't very good, and I spent a little time wrestling with the packages as well. So we're going to do it again. This is a haul of mostly the King. Do you know who the King is? Pretty sure you do. So let's start with some classics. This is obviously Thor number 175, a 15 cent. So it's a Silver Age Thor. You can see the price right there, and that's accurate because that is the comic store that sold it. They sell online. I really like them. I've already bought several comics hauls from them recently. They grade extremely well. Torpedo Comics, and they're apparently in Las Vegas. And you can see they had it for $25, and I got this issue for $9.50. It's probably, in actuality, maybe worth about 15, maybe 20, but probably about 15 in this condition. It's about a 6.0, and they're really cool about actually putting the grades on some of the comics. Some of these don't have it, but these were probably in the store, I would assume. And you get the classic LCS price, $25, even though that's not completely outrageous. It's not as bad as my local LCS, which puts, I don't know, $12 to $15 on pretty much any piece of crap that came before 1990. Anyway, this is not a Jack Kirby cover, even though it's a great cover. I love the Loki cover after all, but is actually by the late, great Marie Severin. Marie Severin just passed away not too long ago. She's probably best known for being a colorist for EC Comics, obviously also being John Severin's little sister, and also she did a lot of great art for EC Comics as well, and for Marvel Comics, but she was never recognized as much for her artwork for whatever reason, even though she was an incredibly talented artist. But this is a cover by Marie Severin, but the interior, Loki returns in the Fall of Asgard, scripted by Stan Lee, of course, pencils by Jack Kirby, and inks by Bill Everett, which is also pretty cool. I like Vinnie Coletta's inks on Thor quite a lot, despite all the naysayers from the Kirby camp and everything else. But Bill Everett's always a little bit special to see his work on Jack Kirby, because he does a really beautiful job inking Kirby as well. And Bill Everett, a great artist in his own right. So that is Thor 175, and here is another beauty. This is 172. And by the way, I think they grade these comics extremely well. I mean, they're very conservative with the grading. And this is an 8.0. So this one was kind of one of the more expensive ones in this little lot of Thors, which is only five copies. But people are certainly chasing this one. And I think I actually have a very low grade copy of this, probably in like 2.5 or 3, that I picked up for just a few dollars a long time ago just for the art. But looking at it now, it was just beautiful to get an 8.0. As you can see, maybe you can see the price tag on it. They had it at $40. I get it for $22.50, and it's definitely a $35 to $40 comic in this condition. Again, you have to find a Kirby, a real Kirby collector, which that shouldn't be hard to find. And for this kind of prime Silver Age Thor, shouldn't be that hard. But yeah, it's about a $35 to $40 comic at least. And I don't think it's going to lose any value anytime soon. Again, this one obviously is a cover by Jack Kirby, inks by Bill Everett again, the Immortal and the Mind Slave, and again it's Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Bill Everett in the interior. And always love the two figures here, obviously Thor in the sky, and then Jane Foster in the middle. Now we're going back. This is Thor 138. Now, Thor 138 is Jack Kirby and Vince Coletta. What I like about this also is it has a Tale of Asgard, the quest for the Mystic Mountain, which is also Kirby, and I think probably Coletta as well, typically, and I really like the Tales of Asgards in the back of these. And this is probably about fair value. This is only listed as a 5.5. Again, corners are nice. Spine is pretty nice. A tiny bit of rolling. Maybe a little bit of discoloration. Again, when it's in the bag, you can't quite tell some of the flaws. It's going to obviously look quite a lot better in the bag, but it's a really nice looking 5.5. I love the bottom of this issue. The Mole Man, the Troll Man, whatever, the Asgardian trolls, whatever they are. And as I said, probably about fair value. I paid $15.50 for that, so because it is going back a little ways. And then we actually go even further back to 120. And now we're in the Journey into Mystery with Thor. This was obviously before. It just became Thor. And also the pretty cool pop art productions insignia that you would see on the 12-cent Marvels from this period, which is, I always thought was pretty cool. I think they were trying to capitalize on the whole pop art movement that had popped up with Roy Lichtenstein ripping off romance comic panels and various comic panels and kind of blowing them up to giant size and then being proclaimed a genius. But this issue is actually listed as a 4.0. I took it out of the bag so we can look inside of it afterwards for really briefly. But and again, this has I believe a Tales of Asgard as well. It's probably about a $20 comic in 4.0. And I didn't list what I paid for this, but I know I didn't pay. Oh, I paid $12.62. So, not the greatest deal ever, but certainly a deal. Certainly, I could sell this comic for $12.62 and probably at least 15, maybe 20. But I certainly bought it because I love the art. And again, you're looking at Kirby. That actually looks like Bill Everett inks, but I'm pretty sure it's not. The interior is definitely Vince Colletta. Last but not least, and this is the earliest issue of Journey into Mystery featuring Thor that I own now. I owned 116 previously. I mean, I still do. And here is 108. You can see it's got a $48 price tag. I paid $30 for it, and that's only a 3.0. But getting this comic even in 3.0 for $30, especially with a lot of people chasing after it, is still a very good deal. I obviously love the Loki cover here, and you get a Doctor Strange appearance. And again, this cover is by Jack Kirby, obviously, but then it's inked by sort of Marvel handyman, do-it-all guy, Saul Brodsky. And then you've got Doctor Strange, you've got the Avengers, and a little bit of a crossover there at the mercy of Loki, Prince of Evil. Script by Stan Lee, pencils by Jack Kirby, inks by Chick Stone, and then the Tales of Asgard backup, Trapped by the Trolls. Again, Lee, Kirby, and inks by Vinnie Colletta. And not a bad looking comic for 3.0. It certainly has its flaws. It certainly has some soiling. It has pretty big nick there that goes well beyond just being a tick. And obviously spine wear, everything that you would expect. Some pretty major creases at the bottom here, but the image area and everything actually still quite nice, especially in the bag, and certainly worth it. And between that and this haul itself was about $90 just for those 5 comics. So hardly anything, certainly not a steal, but I think still far better than fair value. This actually, 108, is a comic that even in this condition can sell for $60 to $70. Whether someone pays that for it or not, I don't know, but someone would certainly, I think, pay $40, $50 for it. So, let's put the Thors off to the side for the moment, and let's take a look at the next batch of the King. And maybe people will be a little bit less excited about this series, This is Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. I actually got these for quite a good deal. And I've always kind of been interested, well, more recently. These were not comics I even noticed. They were before my time, essentially, and also the whole idea that Jimmy Olsen had his own series, even if Superman was in it, wouldn't have mattered to me at the time. But going back, of course, you know, Kirby did some really cool stuff throughout all of his work, especially in the Silver Age and when he moved over to DC. And this comic itself is particularly interesting because I do believe it is the second appearance of Darkseid. I think the first appearance is 134 with the great Neal Adams cover, and that's, you know, depending on the grade, you know, anywhere from $300 comic to, you know, if you get a really high grade, you're talking the 1,000. But, so this is the second appearance. Again, it's just a cameo. And then there's kind of the debate. I'm not really big on these things. I probably have only learned them from watching a few YouTube videos. But I think Forever People #1 actually has a major sort of Darkseid appearance as well. But it seems like collectordom and fandom has deemed Jimmy Olsen 134 as the first appearance of Darkseid. So technically this is the second appearance, and I got this for only $6.50, or is that correct? No. Let's see. Okay, well, I don't remember what I got this for, but still, I got it relatively cheaply. I mean, considering that it, you know, second appearances aren't such a big deal, but I believe that when Darkseid does appear in some sort of DC Universe movie, much like Thanos, even if the movie bombs, as DC Comics movies have been consistently bombing prior to the movie ever coming out, when there's just a trailer and all these fanboys are drooling over it, if it has Darkseid in it, these prices are going to go up, even for a second appearance. So, still a good deal. This was actually, let's see. They're not graded on the back. Okay. I didn't write down enough information for this one. But anyway, it's the second appearance. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Had it written. This is 135. Yeah, second appearance. It's a 4.0. I paid $6.50 for it. It's probably a $20 comic in that condition, a 4.0. Obviously, if it was a higher grade, it would be considerably more. But $20, maybe 15. Still, pretty good deal. And we're looking at 137. Now, this is a nice copy. It's only 6.0, but it actually looks really nice along the spine, especially for these white backgrounds. There's a little dent here that I can feel. But these white backgrounds, when they're not heavily soiled, and you're talking about Silver Age, late Silver Age, but still. And a little tiny color breaking crease at the very bottom corner. But really nice cover. 137. I think I only paid $2.99 for this in 6.0. It's probably only worth about $8 to $10. Cover pencils by Jack Kirby, inks by Neal Adams, and the Forearm Terror. You get interior pencils by Jack Kirby, Murphy Anderson, and Vince Colletta. Now, Vince Colletta does the inks. Murphy Anderson just corrects the heads, because DC did not really trust Jack Kirby with drawing their iconic Superman, even though they let him on to Jimmy Olsen. Notice they didn't put him on Superman, they didn't put him on Batman, and strangely enough, so they wouldn't trust the king of comics with drawing Superman's face, so they have Murphy Anderson come back and correct him, including, and also Jimmy Olsen's, which is, for Kirby fans and fanatics, a real slap in the face. And here we go with 138. Always loved this cover since I've seen it, you know, several times. And back when he was, this is a collage, the collage effect that he also did quite a lot in, for a period in Silver Age Fantastic Four. Also pulled it out here, and actually to great effect, and this is the big boom. Everybody's in this one. It's a blast. And you can see the 4/13, pretty cool date stamp, April 13th. And let's see, I get this one, this is 138. Okay, well, this I get for only $2.80. Yeah, the prior one for $2.99. So as I said, these were basically a song and a prayer. And this is 6.0. Cover is by Kirby. Inks are by Neal Adams again. Interiors again by Kirby and Coletta. We'll take a look at that one also after this run through, very briefly. And that only, it's probably about a $10 to $11 comic at the most. And another crazy one that I always kind of wanted because of this crazy vampire that's in this comic book. And I don't even know if it's actually a vampire. It might be sort of an Ed Wood sort of thing going on there. Big signature by Jack, though. And it's the vampire bit. But like you've never seen it before. Certainly not. Not when Jack Kirby's doing it. And so certainly you might want to take a look at this crazy vampire. So took that one out of the bag as well. And this one was Jack Kirby, inks by Neal Adams, and Mike Royer, who would eventually become sort of Kirby's right-hand man. And in Kirby, in the Kirby aficionados' minds, probably their favorite because he was kind of the most raw, sort of straightforward in terms of doing it the way Jack had penciled it. Kirby and Coletta also in the interior, and you get a Newsboy Legion story by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. I was under the impression that these were new stories, but I'm not positive. I don't know if Simon and Kirby came back to the Newsboy Legions. This is the follow-up, 143. And you can see the vampire, the werewolf man, Frankenstein. Only Jack Kirby probably would, kind of put these kind of goofy characters on the cover and then come up with the genocide spray. Genocide, a very serious term, but Jack Kirby was capable of mixing these two things. He kind of aspired to more serious or more weighty stuff at times. And so there you go with the genocide spray. 143. I got this for only $3.25. It's only a 5.0. It's probably worth about $10. Kirby Royer cover. Kirby, Coletta, Simon and Kirby Newsboy, and Newsboy Legion. And it has a letter from former and late Marvel Bronze Age editor Mark Gruenwald. It's always pretty cool also that some of these have letters from pros in them who were definitely inspired by these comics. And that's a great looking one there. 144. That's a 6.0. Again, a really nice 6.0, especially considering with the white background again. White actually looks quite nice here. Not soiled at all. I'm sure it has some flaws that I'm not seeing because we're looking at the bag, but actually a really nice looking comic. 144, and got that for $3.25 as 6.0. It's probably worth about $14 in that condition, but might be lucky to get 10 for it. But again, Kirby, inks by Murphy Anderson this time on the cover, and then interior you get the Murphy Anderson correcting the heads again. Kirby and Coletta inks. Simeon and Makari capture Jimmy and the Newsboy Legion, and then you get Kirby and Simon Newsboy Legion in the back. So the Newsboy Legion, as you can see right there, are integrated into the actual main story as well as a Kirby and Simon backup later. And, they're sort of comic relief. I think the presence of the Newsboy Legion as well as Jimmy Olsen probably turned off a lot of, more serious fans or the fans that were looking for, big Fantastic Four style drama and melodrama that they might get at Marvel. But in retrospect, there's a lot of charm there. Hope I didn't mess up my... Okay, I think it's okay. Okay, and that's 145, of course. 145, and this is a 7.5, so that's a really nice condition for any kind of Silver Age. Actually, and this is 48 pages, only 25 cents, and 7.5. I get it for only $5.50. It's probably worth about $25 to $30 in this condition, but of course you have to find someone who's willing to pay that because there's no major appearances or even, the cover. It's a nice cover, but, it's got one of these crazy Kirby monsters on it that I've seen, you know, he did in Captain America later during the Bronze Age and pretty frequently. And so it's an acquired taste. Maybe Kirby fanatics would certainly already have the issue, but I bought it. But I bought it for $5.50. Would I have bought it for $25 or $30? Probably not, but someone might. But at the very least, definitely a $15 comic. Again, Kirby, Anderson, you get Vince Coletta and Kirby in the interiors, and you get Newsboy Legion again. And this is 146. Another really nice looking issue. Got a little bit, maybe a little bit of discoloration, a little bit of the center pages, kind of a little bit of a miswrap there. There's a little crunch, tiny bit of crunch where it's compression on the top corner, and a little bit of blunting at the very bottom, but actually, again, really nice looking issue. And I actually think that this particular dealer undergrades ever so slightly, which I also think my comic shop does, which is really appreciated because, you know, I'm not that big of a stickler on grading and condition. I mean, obviously, I want a 6.0 that looks like a 6.0, but I would say that this looks like a 6.5, you know, at the very least, you know. Or it certainly is not lower than 6.0. So I think they're very, very fair grading and very conservative grading. And I got this for only $3.65. It's probably worth about $10 to $14 in this condition again. And again, it's all Kirby. The inks here are Mike Royer, and you get the Newsboy Legion again, and you get 52 pages. So lots of good stuff. And the last, well, not quite last. Last of the Jimmy Olsen run is this cover. Beloved Silver Age cover by Neal Adams. Pretty cool stuff. And this is probably worth only about $15 in this condition, because it's only a 5.0. Actually, again, a really clean looking white cover for a 5.0. Really nice. Looks far better than that, but it is in the bag. Got a little bit of, you know, got a little cut off here, but that's not a trim, I'm fairly certain. That's just, you know, it's just a wrap because of this being a 52 pager. And, you know, because ideally I don't think you're supposed to see the bigger and better DC Jimmy Olsen on the front. You're supposed to see it actually on the spine. But anyway, this is pretty much fair value. I paid $11.38 for it. People actually wanted this one as well. Probably because of Neal Adams cover at the very least. And again, you get script and pencils by Kirby, Vince Coletta, and you get more Simon and Kirby Newsboys. And then last but not least is really beautiful, beautiful cover by Neal Adams again, and in great condition. This is a 7.0 from the Spectre number 4. And I paid $16.50 for it. It is easily a $40 comic. You know, in part, it's got a cool date stamp there as well, March 19th, 1968, which would make sense because that's when it was published, 1968. And it's Neal Adams cover, art, and the art in the interior is also Neal Adams. An immense evil takes over the body of a small child and tries to defeat the Spectre. Letter to the editor from artist Klaus Janson. So Klaus Janson, if you knew anything about the Bronze Age and followed Daredevil particularly, you would be very familiar with Klaus Janson being primary inker for Frank Miller on Daredevil. And then I believe he became the penciler after Frank just became writer. Just started writing it because he had other projects and he couldn't draw it as well. So Klaus Janson, very popular inker, particularly throughout the Bronze Age. This is a beautiful copy, again, 7.0. Hard to find these, and that kind of grade just popped up on eBay for relatively inexpensively, $16.50. This entire lot, these are 10 comics. As I said, I paid about $90 for these 5, going back to Thor. And then for the 10 comics in this, 9 Jimmy Olsen's, and this 1 Spectre, I paid only about $75, and that is with shipping, $8 shipping, so about $67. And this is one that kind of jacked up the price a little bit, being $16.50. Totally worth it. As I said, it's easily a $40 comic. So let's take a real quick look inside, because I tend to run my even my short haul videos longer than most people go through a long box, and this is only 15 comics. Let's look at the crazy Jack Kirby vampire. I think is not even an actual vampire. And also right away, talking about comics, comics pros writing in letters at the time. This is Bob Rozakis' letter, the Answer Man, famous writer for DC, and famously did the DC Answer Man. You could write in questions, and Bob Rozakis always had the answers, and this was well before the internet, my friends, so you couldn't just look those things up on Google. Believe it or not, I actually liked the Big Boom, which is right here. We're going to look at this one next. And I liked it because Superman managed to defeat the DN aliens without the help of anybody else. The past few issues have been rather annoying, since every time the Man of Steel got into a battle, somebody else had to lend a hand. Quite a letdown for the world's mightiest mortal. I liked it because Morgan Edge popped up again. I think he is one of the best villains around. I liked it because Superman and Jimmy will finally be leaving the project to return to Metropolis. I liked the issue because you printed another of my letters, and this time you spelled my name correctly. Thank you. Oh, and one other thing before I close. I noticed that Perry White has been demoted to managing editor of the Daily Planet. How can you do this to him? Sorry for my sniffles. Do what? Perry's still the top man at the Planet. He was never the owner or publisher. Perhaps the title you're looking for is editor-in-chief, but forget it. He'll never use it. You should know by now that he hates to be called chief. ENB. So that is the editor. And so Bob Rozakis, a frequent letter writer here, and let's see if I can find. This is part of the reason maybe fans weren't gaga over the Jimmy Olsen. Aside from Jimmy Olsen not being the most inspiring character for superhero fans, there was a lot of sort of pedestrian stuff, But then inevitably, because it's Kirby and because it's still Superman, it's still superheroes, you still get enough cool stuff in here. For my money, even though this werewolf man, it's kind of silly, and this is it's what you expect from Kirby and Coletta. For my money, I actually like the pinstripe suit the best on that page. Let's get to Crazy Dracula, and crazy foreshortening with a gigantic hand from a Newsboy Legionnaire. Interior's not incredibly inspiring. Actually like this drawing of girl, and again Clark's pinstripe suit. Not exactly an action-packed splash page, but nicely drawn. Then you get, again, the crazy Kirby vampire, the Man from Transylvania. Not the greatest interior art. Nothing to compare to the run on Thor. We'll look at this one last. Let's take a look at the Big Boom, which Bob Rozakis actually liked, and it has some cool stuff in it. Get a little more action in this. Some classic Kirby sort of lumpy monsters here, but well drawn, not just sort of phoned in really quick. Sort of very much from, you know, his monster days at Marvel when he was doing Strange Tales, Tales to Astonish or whatever, or Fear. And this issue is a lot more interesting character designs. This character is really pretty cool looking. And creatures are cool. And yes, indeed, there is a Bob Rozakis letter in this one as well. That's how you used to get into comics in the old days. You used to write them fawning letters, and eventually they remembered your name when you kept sending in proposals. And you got to be an intern. And eventually there was so much work to be had that they would turn actual comic books over to interns and let them write them. And that's a really cool splash page there. Certainly worth the price of admission. And another cool splash page, this time with Superman and the Newsboy Legion. Another cool splash page with the Newsboy Legion. And a very cool Kirby collage. So lots of good stuff in this one. And I think I only get this again for about, what is this, 140, no, 138. Only got this for, this was only $2.80, so definitely worth it for all of this Kirby art. So, and this is all Kirby all the way through. Very cool. And let's take a look at the piece de resistance, even though all of those Thor comics are going to be beautiful, of course. And right off the bat, we can see, well, first, here are the letters pages here. Nobody's names I recognize, but I'm sure they're interesting. And also, let's take a look at this time, what was coming out on the Mighty Marvel checklist. These are comics that were coming out this month. Fantastic Four number 43, Spider-Man number 29, Avengers number 20, X-Men number 13, Daredevil number 9, Strange Tales number 137, Tales of Suspense number 70, Tales of Astonish number 72, and Sergeant Fury number 22. So what would you not give to have, or what would you give to get a Fantastic Four 43, Spider-Man 29, Avengers 20 for the cover price, X-Men 13, etc. This is a Tales of Asgard. Always had pretty often the Warriors 3. You can see Volstagg there, where my thumb is, getting his ass kicked, quite literally, by Loki. And these were really beautifully drawn as well. Look at that. Great splash page. I mean, they're very clean, very simple, but I mean, the fact that Kirby was drawing the lead and then also having to pencil and ink and another short story, even if it's just a few pages, it's a lot of work. Jack Kirby was a workhorse, and there you go, right there. Also, some really cool annuals that were coming out at that time. And there you see Crusher Creel, the Observing Man, I do believe. Look at that outfit. Cool. There's the Avengers. Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Hawkeye. I like the way the Scarlet Witch is drawn right there. And just a few more. Just a little bit more of Kirby goodness, yes. Anytime he draws Odin, you get something incredible. He's always got a crazy headdress. He's done far more elaborate Odin headdresses than this one. This one looks like an eagle or a vulture. Maybe a vulture. But still always cool. And there is the splash page. And this is only a 4.0, but as you can see, it's well attached in the front. Pages are nice. Nice off-white. Nice splash page. And another beautiful page. And there. Looks like the, I didn't expect that. Looks like the Kirby collage method yet again. Or the Kirby photo background method. That may be more accurate. But, pretty cool. I haven't seen that one before. And that kind of comes as a nice surprise. Actually looks quite cool. And that's it. As I said, 35 minutes already on just 15 comics, but I tend to be a lot more long-winded than many of my comics hauling friends because I buy fewer comics than they do. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this haul, and I hope you enjoyed Jack Kirby as much as I do. If you're a comics fan, I'm sure you do. Thanks a lot, and check out the readings because I've got plenty of those up, and also other hauls. Thanks for listening, and see you next time on God Loves Comics. Goodbye.